This is one of the little girls that one of the teachers was talking about, who didn't want to write and then decided after learning one genre that she was going to grow up and be a writer. It's demanding, yes, 8 to 12 lessons, 20 to 40 minutes, but is that an over-the-top investment in our kids? That's actually not bad, is it? If we would invest that and let it be done well, what a difference we'd have. Okay, lots more questions. I'm not going to give you the examples. There's examples coming up. This is my last slide, and there's like 25 more. If you want a breakdown of each stage of instruction and the teacher and kid actions in each stage, that's coming. References, resources. And our most current research is in two areas. One is we are building a intelligent tutor, because at the whole class level, teachers really struggle to differentiate SRSD. They struggle at the high end and they struggle at the low end. It's very hard. I had 30-something kids, 31, 32 kids in 4th grade in West Virginia. You can't. You've got pre-primer readers to 6th grade readers. You can't individualize everything effectively. So teachers end up teaching more toward the middle. We know that from research. With the intelligent tutor, our SRSD teachers are getting even higher gains than the teachers who don't have the intelligent tutor. And they're using it mostly for the kids who are struggling. Where they're weakest and where we need to spend a lot more time is with the kids who are good writers. They will actually do less when we expect less. Right? You know that. Right. And then our second line of research the last few years has been in practice-based professional development for SRSD with special ed and general ed teachers. And I'm a little bit over, and I would love to take any questions, comments, thoughts, responses, issues, wait time. Yes?
How do you convince them that they want to learn something that's difficult?
It's not easy. And Donald Deschler's the one who taught me this. They went so far because they were working with adolescents and pre-adolescents. We started with elementary and gradually worked our way up to middle school and high school. And then I'm down to 2nd grade because I didn't think 2nd graders could handle it. And boy, was I wrong. And 2nd grade is really easy. This is an answer to your question. It turned out 2nd grade was a joy because they hadn't developed those negative attitudes yet. They still thought writing was cool and writing was fun. By 3rd grade, and Appleby's research, many other people's research show the same thing. Around 3rd grade, we get a massive shift toward dislike of writing and writing instruction, and by 4th grade, we get a large and significant number of kids will say they hate writing. So it happens somewhere in that 3rd and 4th grade stage. And it really is this very frank and open discussion in small groups where you're building trust, or in a classroom where the teacher has good rapport. Why is writing hard for you? What do you think? We ask kids, what do you, when I say we're going to write today, or I'm giving you a writing assignment, what's the first things that come in your head? And kids they'll start telling you, I hate writing, I'm no good writing, I was born this way. And we start to unpack it, we talk about it, and then we make the promise that I mentioned to you, and we show them the before and after writing of kids like them at their grade level who worked with us. And that usually works, but not always. We occasionally do have kids who just won't get on board. If we're in a special ed situation, we can usually get those kids later because they start seeing their classmates improvement and their classmates are happy, and then they'll say, okay, can I do it too? So good question, and SRSD is not a panacea, it's not a magic bullet, and it is not a complete writing curriculum. It's only a part.
How does this interface with issues of like handwriting? So for the earlier grade, you said that the other girl that was typewritten, and that's great, but I know that some of the focus and some of the hardship of writing in the earlier grades, and this is not based on research, based on my own kids,
it's also
the production.
I know exactly where you're going, and the research supports it.
The actual production of.
And the more difficulties you have with production, keyboarding or print, or cursive, the less you will write and the lower the quality will be. So how do we get around that? One is motivation. 2 is reasonable expectations. Like you saw Paige, the 4th grader with LD, that was a paragraph. Should 4th graders be writing more than a paragraph? Yes, but we need to start at a doable, right? With all the challenges she faces. And also, she was in a whole language school, in a whole language classroom where, if you don't know how to spell a word, just put down what you think and keep going. But then half the time she couldn't remember what the words were. So we changed that. We allowed her to use her writing community. if she was worried she couldn't remember the word and get help with it later, she was allowed to ask, or she was allowed to go look it up. And of course we did word walls, right? All that kind of good stuff. So Steve Graham is really, in our team, the handwriting spelling person. And he and I, but more him, we developed with funding quite a few years ago a stripped down printing curriculum that was extremely effective with kids with disabilities, but it never got commercialized, but we'll give it to you for free if you want it. And we also developed a spelling based on a lot of what we know about learning to spell and in learning in general. We also developed a spelling guide and curriculum based on the words kids use most in writing. Doesn't that make a lot of sense if you're going to ask kids to spell at the early grades? And it also had really good effects, but it also never, you know, it's only been 30 years to get SRSD to have a presence, so, but yes, and we can't, schools abandoned handwriting. They abandoned or gave very little attention to spelling. And it's not surprising that we now have kids who are finally learning keyboarding to be legible, or they're finally learning to spell when they're in middle school and high school. It's because, and it's not every school, and it's not every state, and it's not every district, but it has been the leading approach. Also, by the way, we analyze curriculum, commercial curriculums. The average commercial curriculum asks kids to learn 12 or more writing tasks in a single school year. So third graders, I can give you the list, third and fourth graders, they're writing 3 kinds of poetry, they're writing thank you letters, they're writing opinion, lots of story, lots of personal narrative, but with different requirements around them. 12 to 14. How are you supposed to learn to do 12 to 14 meaningfully different kinds of writing in one school year? And research shows that the genres and the writing tasks are independent. You can be good at stories and lousy at opinion. You don't get good at one and suddenly you can do all the rest. Certainly you get good at one, there's going to be a little help. But anyways, long answer to your question, but it's just the whole way we're going about teaching writing right now. It's just really bad. Anything else? Other questions?
Yeah, so that's partially answered where it's going. How close are the models that you have to the criterion tests?
Very close. The models that we give them to analyze and discuss, they're very close. So that what we hope is to get them past those models, and with most of our kids we do. But at a minimum, they need to reach that model. This is what we're doing now. This is much more sophisticated writing. This is still 4th and 5th grade, and they're using source text. So this is another line of research we're doing now, source text for writing to persuade. But we start with those models that are very close to criterion, and then we get kids to expand. So if you want to learn about this set of strategies and the kind of outcomes we're getting, multiple paragraph essays or long essays that kids can then learn how to break into paragraphs, that's been really, really fun. So yes, and it's, again, it's that successive approximation. It's that idea of we get here first, and then we keep you going. We always say that SRSD is a beginning, not an ending. We get kids on the playing field, and one of the biggest weaknesses in SRSD research is that there's nothing longitudinal. Teachers say, what do I do after this? And we say, we'll figure it out. Understand the genre. We don't have anything to guide them with. Now we have 2 groups, both nonprofit, one doing K-12, one doing 212, SRSD cross-curriculum work, and they're getting great results, but them and the teachers are figuring out what to do next. Not me. We don't have anything to give them. I mean, I have ideas, but I don't have anything developed. So it's a good question. All this is a beginning. 30 years and all we got is a beginning. That's okay. But, yes.
So kids who are good at writing seem to develop these strategies naturally. Where do you think it comes from?
Well, I think, and there's not a research base on this, but just my observations, our own daughter didn't learn, she was in a whole language school. She did not learn to read in that school. So by the end of kindergarten, we just started teaching her. We were a couple old special ed reading people, so we're just like, the school said, oh, we think she has an LD, and we said, well, she has ADHD probably, but LD not. Anyways, there's a lot that goes on at home that we don't know about. So a lot of the kids who are better writers in school today, we find when we talk to them that someone else taught them. So there is that piece which we don't know how to measure. But I also agree, it's like anything. There are people who take to gymnastics like that. There are people who get on a horse and will always fall off, and there are people who get on a horse and in a few lessons they're riding better than anybody around them. There are some kids who seem to be able to read and intuit structure. But we can't really explain it. But what we can tell you is you better be careful, because those kids, if they're given the same goals as everybody else, they'll write less.
Yeah.
So what we've really, when we've gone to whole class, we've only been doing whole class general special ed inclusion classrooms. We've only been doing that for 7 years. And one of the first lessons we learned was that we have to get teachers to pay attention to those kids. And we've set higher goals for those kids. We gave different models for those kids, but the teachers are so overwhelmed and trying so hard to pull up the kids who are struggling that those end up being the kids they spend the least time and attention on. And with the references for that work are in
The
them.
gifted kids.
They're not necessarily gifted.
The
but
skilled kids.
Yeah,
they spend
like
less time
writing.
on those kids.
They spend, and they don't know how to challenge them. They don't know where to direct them. No, teachers aren't prepared to teach writing. The most preparation that most teachers get is one course, in a reading course, they get 1 to 2 sessions on writing, and that's it. That's what they report, that's what they get. They report that they feel much better while they're in-service teachers because they take PD. But what is the bulk of the PD on? Whole language. And then many of them report that they're very unhappy and dissatisfied with whole language, but they don't know what else to do. So part of this is just that we've not given the teachers, they don't have the genre knowledge themselves. It may seem simple to you and I how to take a simple argument, and now to make it truly argumentative writing, you have to refute one or more opposing positions. That might seem obvious to us, but how many years did we take to learn to write scholarly argumentative writing? Everything we write in research is an argument. Every paper, every article you write is argumentative writing. How long did that take us to learn? Why are we expecting 10-year-olds to just figure it out for themselves?
Maybe not. So would it be possible for the next step to look at what happens in the house? Or do
Yes,
you think,
we have been wanting to do that for years.
Okay.
We, just like the reading field did, and I don't think we're ever going to get to do it because I think we're committed to so many things right now, but I wish someone would start looking, just like reading did, at the role of home and family. We've written about it, we've said it needs to be done, and I think it's going to be even more challenging to get parents involved in writing than it has been to get parents involved in reading.
Oh, this is going to be the last question, yeah.
Don't you think articulating the way in which your integrated theory can be situated within, say, cognitive developmental theory or sociocultural theory would be real helpful in figuring out what to do next?
We've done some of that. We've written chapters on how it aligns and sits within self-regulation. We just finished a chapter on how it aligns and fits within executive function. We've written about how it fits within social cultural. Less we've written on that, and I think that's one of our biggest weaknesses. Social cultural says we need to pay attention to family. We do pay attention to writing community. It just, when you're working with teachers, they don't really care about all that. Right?
I understand that. I mean, I'm an early
Right.
childhood person. So
Right. Yeah, I know.
But I think part of what academics can do is use the conceptual framework to help articulate what the next step in the research
I totally agree, and I
think special educators sometimes see special. I don't know. Maybe you disagree with me.
No, I think I know where you're headed.
You really can take apart the details and understand how things fit together in sometimes different ways.
Right.
But people who are more, kids who do figure it out for themselves might
Be
understand
different.
that process and more
Yeah,
really
absolutely, and
helpful.
we need to work with them in a different way. One of the things I say to teachers over and over again is, why are you wasting a kid's time teaching them something that's not even as good as they're already doing? Why would you do that? The first thing we teach teachers to do at the whole class level is to do a pre-assessment with a little instruction. We don't want to do it cold. Do some instruction, get a pre-assessment, and then we help them, and I get in all kinds of trouble. Whatever words I try to use here, I can't get the right words. We help the teachers sort, identify the kids who are already writing up here, and we call them high flyers, and because we call them high flyers, we're racist, sexist, and elitist. And we talk about the typical writers, and then we talk about the kids who are struggling. And if you can find words that everybody likes, please let me know what they are. But that's what we try to do, right? And so I agree with you. And where I've gotten through to people who are very intensely critical theory, which I totally support, and very intensely social cultural, is when I explain how important Rogoff